Hey friends, I'm Shelly. Welcome back to my channel. For some reason today, I just feel so nervous about making this video. I'm not exactly sure why. I guess it is kind of personal what I'm doing. So today I want to tell you guys about Luna's birth story. If you're new to my channel, Luna is my 11-month-old daughter. I've wanted to make this video for a really long time. When I was pregnant with Luna, I watched so many of these videos. I wanted to know the ins and outs of literally everything. I wanted to hear all the horror stories and then not so horror stories. I wanted to hear everything good, everything bad. I just wanted to know everything. I'm like a research junkie, so I watch videos on all types of things, but especially birth stories because I know every single one is different and I just wanted to know what to expect so I could prepare myself as best as I could. Little do you know, you cannot prepare yourself for giving birth to a human. So as some of you might know, I had a really bad snowboarding accident almost 8 years ago. I only actually broke my arm. This is what that scar on my arm here is from. But it was a super traumatic accident and I definitely could have died. I didn't, thank God, but I broke my arm and I spent an entire year in recovery from this snowboarding accident. Along with that, I have a whole host of problems with my body that I didn't have before, that no doctor has actually told me directly comes from this snowboarding accident, but I am 100% positive that all of the problems that I face these days are because of my snowboarding accident, because I was fine before I had it. But that is a story for another video in itself. Hi. So one of the major problems that I have is with my back. Ever since my snowboarding accident, I've had tons of back pain. There were a few times where my back would just lock up and I would not be able to walk for weeks. I wouldn't be able to get out of my bed. I could not even roll over from my back to my front. I couldn't straighten. There's just really bad back problems. And it took me a while going through physiotherapy, but afterwards I had a MRI done and the MRI revealed that between if you have back issues, you know what I'm talking about, but between my L2-3 and my S1, so the lower lumbar spine, I have a few herniated discs, I have arthritis, I have degenerative disc disease, I have spinal stenosis, and I was also born with a fusion between my S1 and my L5, which is the very bottom vertebrae and the top of your butt vertebrae. So I was born with those fused together, which basically puts me down a vertebrae in my back. So I have lots of pain in my back and it makes it difficult for a few things. When I got pregnant, my birth plan was get an epidural, have a baby, and that is it. I wanted nothing else but to be pain-free and have a baby. I am also deathly terrified of needles. Not in a sense oh, I don't want to get a needle, I'm kind of scared. Deathly afraid to the point where nurses have Luna. Deathly afraid to the point where nurses have walked out of the room and been I'm not doing this with you. So when I started having back pain while I was pregnant with Luna, I said to my doctor, this is what's going on. And I asked her, I just want to make sure that I can have an epidural to have the baby. And she told me she's not 100% sure if I can have an epidural or not to have the baby. So I went in thinking that I was going to have a natural birth. So I tried my very best to prepare for a natural birth. And the way that I best knew how to do that was through hypnobirthing. And the reason that I chose hypnobirthing was because for years I have practiced mindful meditation. All throughout my pregnancy with Luna, I meditated daily with her. So I also downloaded and listened to an audiobook on hypnobirthing, and that is pretty much a course to prepare you for what's to come. The whole thing behind hypnobirthing is to take away the fear of the birth, and going into it, that's really what helps you, is being able to separate yourself from the fact that it is a really scary situation bringing another human onto this planet, and just making yourself okay with that fact, and then being able to get to a state in your mind where like you are just at peace with the fact that it's going to hurt and your body's going to do what it's going to do. And at the end of it, you have this perfect bundle, and you know, that's the way that hypnobirthing works. And it really did prepare me for that. So I was 9 days overdue with Luna, and I was scheduled to be induced on a Wednesday. And the morning that I was supposed to be induced, I was supposed to call the hospital, and they were going to give me a time to come in, and I was supposed to call them at 6 a.m. At 4 a.m., I woke up and I had contractions. So I was ready to go. I didn't even call them. I just got up, I took a shower. My husband went and woke my mom up. She was visiting from Grenada for the birth of Luna. So he went, he woke her up. We got all ready and we went to the hospital. This was also the day of the super full worm moon in March. And I was hoping and praying for a full moon baby because I love the name Luna, and my husband was totally against it, but he had told me that if she was born on the full moon, that I could name her Luna. And I went into it not even thinking that I was going to name her Luna. We were waiting until we saw her to choose her name, and it just kind of happened that way. Anyways, so we get to the hospital, and it seems like the full moon put a ton of women into labor because they were pretty much lining the halls. There was not enough rooms for all of us. So I did the majority of my laboring, walking halls and around the hospital and just trying to get labor going. So I would say around 14 hours into labor, I was finally admitted into a room, and with me I had my husband's sister, my husband's sister and my sister are best friends, and my mom. So I was able to have all the four people that I wanted there in the room with me and throughout this whole process, and it was great. Like, each one of them definitely played a role in how everything turned out, and it was really nice to have all the people that I needed there to comfort me throughout all these times. So I labored, and with the hypnobirthing, honestly, it wasn't bad. Like, I could have gone for days hypnobirthing through these contractions. I was in such a good mental state, and I would just put my head down, I'd close my eyes, and I would just breathe through them and just like picture myself opening up and getting this baby out of me, and it really, really worked. I honestly don't feel like the pain was that bad. Anyways, I was at 5 centimeters dilation for a really long time, and so after about hour 20, after hour 20 of laboring with hypnobirthing, they decided to break my water. And once they did that, the contractions came on so strong. And I feel like they kind of pushed me into getting my water broken because there were so many people waiting to give birth that day, and there was not enough rooms for all of them. And so I feel like they kind of hurried me along, even though the nurse that I had was like really into the fact that I wanted to hypnobirth, and she was like, you can do this, and she was the right person to have for this. So after they broke my water, my contractions started getting really, really, really bad. So she suggested that I get into the whirlpool. I honestly didn't want to because I'm not like a bath person. I don't like to sit in a tub full of water and like myself and like all my germs and like other people's germs that have been in there before. So I was reluctant, but I did it because I needed some sort of relief. So I did get into the jacuzzi tub, and I spent 2 hours laboring in there. The 2 hours that I had spent in that tub laboring, like, I don't know if any of you guys follow Audrey Roloff, but when she had her first child, Ember, she had written a blog about it, and she said that giving birth naturally was like somebody cutting into you with a chainsaw, like cutting your stomach open with a chainsaw. And I was like, oh man, like that sounds really awful. And like, I wanted to believe whoever said it was the worst pain, like I wanted to believe that person, because like, I feel like people don't tell you exactly how gnarly things get. And if you are looking for the person to tell you like how gnarly giving birth is going to be, like I will be the one. It is so painful. It is so, so painful. I felt like there was a boulder inside of my stomach that was just like churning and ripping apart my insides. It was so painful. And the whole time I was just like, before when I was hypnobirthing, I was just like this is not as bad as when I broke my arm. This is not as bad as when I broke my arm, because I had been through like a really traumatic experience with breaking my arm, and it was excruciating painful, like the type of pain where you throw up and you pass out kind of pain. And like this was 700 times worse. Like it was so painful. It got to the point where like my mom was like on her knees praying. My husband and my sister were just like looking at each other. Like my sister is scarred for life for sure. Like they said that I was just not myself for those 2 hours. Like they had lost me. My eyes were rolling into the back of my head, and it was awful. Those 2 hours were so terrible. And as much as I wanted to stick it out and I wanted to hypnobirth and I thought I could breathe through it, I just couldn't do it, guys. I really just couldn't do it. I literally begged for an epidural. So the nurse comes in and she says to me, you know, when women say that they're at this point where they just don't want to do it anymore, it usually means that they're pretty close to pushing. She said, so I know you want a hypnobirth and I know you want low intervention, so let's just go check you and then we'll go from there. So she went to go check me. This is now hour 22 of labor. She checks me. I was still at 5 centimeters, y'all. So at that point, she says to me, like, okay, you can get the epidural. And because I am absolutely terrified of needles, and it was written in my birth package that I have a huge needle phobia, like my OB knew, and she came and talked to them about it because it's like a really serious thing. So I asked for an Ativan first to like relax me, and then the epidural. So I did get the epidural. The Ativan worked perfectly. Like, it honestly wasn't that bad. When I think about it now, it's like, it's pretty daunting to think about somebody sticking like a huge needle into your spine. And like, I had to push back on it when she was pushing it in. And I just said to the anesthesiologist, I don't want to know anything about what you're doing. Just do it and like, we'll be fine. So I got the epidural, and y'all, I was fine after that. Like, it was perfect. Now, the only thing about this is now I had had an intervention, and I had done something that completely threw off the rest of like my birth plan, which I mean, is to be expected. And part of hypnobirthing is knowing that your birth plan might not always go the way that you want it to go. So I was fine with that. And honestly, after 22 hours, I was so exhausted that like even if I had gone the full time, there's no way I would have been able to push at the end of it because I was just so tired. So now after I have my epidural, I'm feeling perfectly fine. They decided to give me Pitocin to get labor moving along even more, see if I could dilate a few more centimeters. So they gave me the Pitocin, but what happened was once I got the Pitocin, Luna's heart rate started dropping. And so the doctor came in and he was like, you need to have a C-section. I vaguely remember it because I was so tired, but I remember just like signing the papers and being like, whatever you guys got to do, like, let's just do it. Like, I'm ready to have this baby. The one thing that I did ask him though was if my C-section scar was going to turn out like this, because I have keloids from my traumatic injury here, and I didn't want to have that type of scar on my stomach. So I did mention that to him, and he said no, and by the grace of God, I have like a perfect scar now, and there's like nothing wrong with it at all. So they come in, they get me to sign all the paperwork, and I said, so like, when are we gonna have this C-section? And he's like right this second. Like, it's an emergency, the baby's heart rate is dipping, this is not good. And so we went in, we had a C-section. I remember it was so cold in there. It was just freezing, and like you're naked and they strap your arms back like this, and like you're held to the table. And then my husband came in, and I vaguely remember him being in the room with me as well because I was just so exhausted. But I think it took about an hour altogether, and Luna was out. She came out. She didn't cry the very first second she came out, but they did take her away to the side, and right away they were doing stuff with her, and then we heard her cry. And then they came over, they put her on me, but from the anesthetic, like, I got so nauseous, and as soon as I held her, I was just like, oh my God, I think I'm gonna throw up. And so they took her from me, and they gave her to my husband, and they gave me like gravel inside of my IV. And I just remember looking at my husband and being like, I feel so bad right now, like, how am I not holding my baby? Like, I want to hold my baby. And I was like, I think I need to go to sleep now. And I passed out. And when I woke up, I was in like the recovery room, and they had already had her on me to nurse while I was out, and everybody was taking pictures of her and this and that. And I just remember being so tired and just like feeling awful, and kept saying to them like, oh my God, I feel so bad. I feel so bad. Not in like a sick way, but like in a way like I can't believe I'm not with my daughter. Like, she's been on this planet for like 2-3 hours now, and like I'm not holding her. And I just felt really, really bad about that. Anyway, so it all ended up working out. I finally came to and got to hold my beautiful baby. And then my husband kind of leaned in and he whispered to me, he was like, you can name her whatever you want to name her. I'm fine with it. I mean, I feel like once a man sees a woman go through that type of pain, there is nothing else that he can say. Like, there is nothing a man can do in this world that will ever compare to a woman bringing a life into the world, because it is the hardest thing ever. And so I named her Luna Raye, L-U-N-A-R-A-Y-E, and she's like the most perfect thing ever. She was born at 6:56 in the morning after 27 hours of labor. She was 8 pounds and 6 ounces, and she was absolutely perfect. So for all of you mamas-to-be that came here looking for advice on how to do hypnobirthing, I would say go through with what your plan is. I mean, don't let anybody tell you that you shouldn't hypnobirth or you shouldn't do things the way you want to do. You make a plan for the way that you want to do it, and if it works out, it does, and if it doesn't, I mean, that's just the way it's supposed to be. Babies come when they're ready, they come how they are, and there's nothing that any of us can do about it. So I still feel like I had a really good birth, considering the fact that I made it 24 hours without any intervention. And I mean, I'm really happy with the way it came out. And to tell you the honest truth, I am so happy I had a C-section and that I didn't have to push a human out of my body. And my next pregnancy, I will definitely be having a scheduled C-section as well. So friends, thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you got some information that you were looking for. Leave me a comment down below to let me know what you think about it. Let me know what your birthing story was like. I love birth stories because every single one is so different and everybody just has a vision of what they planned it for it to be like. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new. Hit the like button down below, and I will catch up with you guys next week in a new video. Bye!